Thank you very much for the invitation. We have been a bit excited about this meeting because it's quite a challenge talking to a lot of very professional evaluators. But I was very happy to hear the presentation before us, which is a very good introduction to ours, saying that participatory methods and video are very good for dissemination and for evaluation too. And basically this is what we will be trying to tell you or show you from our experience. We will try to show you some videos. We might have some technical problems. I apologize for that in advance. Maybe we won't, so we hope for the best. So my name is Gustàv Nemes. I'm a rural sociologist from Hungary. I teach at the Corvinus Budapest University, and I also work as a researcher for the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. And I've been doing different kinds of evaluations for a long time. In my research work, I do a lot of participatory evaluation and action research with leader groups, with environment groups, with all sorts of different kind of rural communities. But like most of you, I also do official EU evaluations. I did ex-ante and midterm and ex-post in Hungary, and I contributed to some big European comparative projects and some methodology building for the previous midterm evaluation too. So on the one hand, I'm coming from the evaluation side. On the other hand, I'm coming from the video side, which I was introduced to video and participatory video by my friend Chris High. We met 8 years ago at a conference, and he started to talk to me about it. And then next year we did our first pilot project in Hungary, and ever since we have been trying to use and raise interest in using video. So if any of you will get interested today, then we will be already successful. Please, Chris. Take care of 2 mics.
It's going to be fun juggling these all the time. Right, so my name's Chris High. I'm an academic lecturer at the Open University in the UK. So that's distance learning. And the courses I run are taught in the UK, but also in Europe and internationally. I'm also a researcher as part of my job. My research interests, if you like, are learning and communication in sustainable development. And in English, you say, I cut my teeth. I don't know if the idiom works. A baby, when its teeth arrives. I cut my teeth in developing countries, working in India and South Africa. And there's a rich body of practice in participatory methods in developing countries. And a lot of my work in the last decade has been to bring some of that tradition back into rural development in Europe. In particular, I'm interested in the use of technology to mediate social learning. And that's things like video, but it also includes other things like web portals, GIS. Even a microphone like this can mediate a conversation in a way that happens differently to if it wasn't here. I don't have any experience of formal evaluation in European rural development, although I have worked on evaluation projects elsewhere. And so this collaboration with Gustàv has been about bringing my experience together with his experience to see how we can move things forward. I think the other thing that's relevant is I've sort of developed around this a body of training in participatory video for researchers, and this is now spread into my mainstream teaching, and I teach an online course that's available around the world in video making.
Okay, we will talk a little bit about, we'll tell you what participatory video is, and then you can see the rest of it. We will go through this and try to not waste too much time. Chris, what is PV? Will you tell us?
So the key thing, actually we have a lot of problem around this because until you've done it, it's difficult to imagine. But the simplest way is to say it's filmmaking with people instead of about them. So normally when a film is made about a subject, a professional crew will come in and point cameras at things, a bit like what's happening in this room. And a film is made that represents that experience. And over the last 40 years or so, it's sort of arisen in a number of places that if you hand the cameras over to people and show them how to use it, you get this collaborative approach to working with a group or community in shaping their own film. And this is a very powerful way to enable positive change and transformation. So it's been used over the last 40 years in all sorts of contexts, particularly for advocacy and mediation. It's also used to mobilize communities. And my own interest in it is that it's a very powerful tool for participatory analysis. Now, participatory data gathering is easy. You can get people to go and gather data. To get them to think about that and to shape that into a narrative that points out elsewhere is difficult. And I became interested in this after my own PhD working in India with a rural development NGO there, where it's taken 6 weeks to help them write a report about their own research. Very interesting project, but they had difficulty expressing that. The same people, 2 years later in a film project, spent an afternoon scripting a video, and it was easy and fun. And I became interested in that difference and how it was that they were able to project their thoughts through the medium of making a film in a way that they hadn't been in terms of a report.
Okay, then what is PV good for in rural development? What we can use it for? I mean, one kind of thing we have done is self-evaluation and capacity building. This first project we had together 7 years ago was in a Hungarian leader group, and we have a self-explaining video about it. I hope it will work. The video was recorded 3 o'clock in the morning with my voiceover, so please bear with me.
It's great.
We first used participatory video for rural development with a Hungarian leader group in June 2006. If I want to put it simply, what happened, it was that we went there with lots of cameras and microphones. We showed the local people how to use the equipment. We helped them to write a script and to find out what they really wanted to show about themselves to the outside world. And then they made their own film about themselves, about their work, their region, and also about the process of making a film. Looking back, at the beginning of the week we spent together, we all had some expectations. The leader group, first of all, wanted a film to show. And we wanted to learn about evaluation. But at the end of the week, we all had much more than that. For the leader group, the main result turned out to be not the film, but the process through which it was made. Process greatly reinforced their community, gave them time to be able to talk to each other, to make lots of contacts within their region, and at the end of the week, the community and their leader group and their common understanding of what they were doing was much stronger than before that. And our group learned a lot about group dynamics and how to work with people, and of course how to use participatory video in a rural environment for evaluation purposes and community development purposes. So we started the week with lots of doubts and misunderstandings, and we ended up in a huge party where we had to show the film, I think 4 or 5 times. And I really want to say that we all learned an awful lot, and it was a lot of fun to do this.
Our second such experiment, if you like, was in Ireland, and I'd just like to play you the brief we had from the main organizer. So this is Carmel Fox, who's the chairperson of a rural development corporation in Ireland, explaining what the project was about. And I think it's better in her words rather than
my expectation is that there'll be a very clear product that will explain to people community socio-economic planning. We believe that we have a model which was initially developed as ADOPT and which has been enhanced in practice over time. And we believe that because it's not a very tangible piece, that it's not that easy to explain the value of it to others. And that by undertaking this evaluation, using the Kilmallock Partnership Plan and the plan in Liscarroll, that it should become easier for people to understand the value of socio-economic planning.
Sorry, and I do know the Irish accent is sometimes difficult to follow even if you speak English very well. the main thing is they had a community development process that they had been using in their district for many years, and they wanted to spread that model elsewhere. So we worked with them and some of their communities, their community partners, to condense that experience into a set of video resources that could be used in presentations. And our interest was that the learning in the process of making those videos was in many ways just as important as the videos themselves, because the people making those presentations learnt about the topic by thinking through what was going on.
And basically, our commission was to help them to make a good marketing tool to market their method. They wanted to sell it all over the place. And that was a completely different commission from the first one. The next one is a very recent project. We did it in January in Paris. Solinsa is a big European seventh framework, big research project. It's about the changes in the agricultural knowledge system, and I'm part of it from the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. And basically, this video was, we want to show you an example how an organization is creating a common understanding of the project they want to do together through a participatory video process. So we did this video in a 3-hour workshop in Paris in January.
Solinsa ir par mācīšanos starp cilvēkiem.
Solinsa is about innovation in sustainable agriculture.
Solinsa è innovazione per un'agricoltura sostenibile.
The researchers are going into action, they go in the field, they meet the people, they work together, they learn together.
We work with participatory methodology and we enjoy it.
The Solinsa project is an EU-wide research project, and it consists of 11 partners situated in 8 countries, all across Europe. So this includes countries like Latvia, down to Italy, up again to the UK, to the Netherlands, Germany, France, Switzerland is in there.
Solinsa is linking consumers and producers.
It's a group of researchers, farmers, extensionists coming together to solve a problem.
They want to change things and they have a lot of energy, they're enthusiastic, and it's really satisfying working with groups like that who really have an idea and a sense of direction where they want to go.
I think Solinsa can explore the ways that the work in groups can foster innovation for sustainable development.
What is very exciting about Solinsa is that you really see how agriculture is made sustainable in practice by looking what farmers do, with whom they engage, the knowledge they need, how they really work on innovative practices.
Well, to me, the main goal is to contribute to the whole innovation process in agriculture, but on a way that's focusing on developing the concept of sustainable agriculture.
Everyone in Europe would like agriculture to become more sustainable, including the policymakers, and we're studying projects on the ground that are actually implementing sustainable agriculture, and we're taking lessons from those practices and spreading them across Europe more widely.
This was the third big participatory workshop. We had three days workshops with these researchers together, during the last 1 year, but this was the third one, and on this one, this afternoon, we learned more about what we want to do together than all the way until then. And on the other hand, we have a nice video which you can hang on the website, and we can show it around. Okay, another example how it is used. So it's just one single example from Hungary. It's a leader group where this is the logo of the leader group, where the leader of the agency, I mean the leader of the, what do you call it? The rural development group, pays the local television a little bit of money, 100 quid a month, 100 euros a month or something, and for that, every 2 weeks, she has half an hour on the local television where they make interviews with her about what is happening, what sorts of things are coming up and what they've been doing. On the other hand, they are making a lot of videos all over the place about all sorts of, oops, this is not the one I wanted to show. Maybe we lost that one too. This is it. This is their website, and they have they have a video gallery, and they have something like, I mean, a lot of different videos about occasions, about things they've done, like small documentaries. Some of them are participatory videos, some of them are just made. And this is one of the major tools how they actually spread the information to the local people and to the outside world too. The slide we lost on the way of transferring all these things and technical problems is about our biggest project in this thing was in 2010 in Hungary, when we organized a big training for facilitators in Hungary. 9 leader groups were participating. It was 30 plus people for a week, and we taught them how to make participatory video. And ever since this method is spreading in Hungary, and we are planning other things. I mean, this year we will make quite a few films with these leader groups. Another result of that, and actually we have a long film which we will show you later on if you still have time and energy and if you don't run out of time. But another thing which happened there was the Hungarian Rural Network the Hungarian National Rural Network sent a representative to that course, and after that this Hungarian National Rural Network started to make videos themselves. And now in their public relation department, they have a whole group of people who are doing videos, and they do these videos on national level. So there are lots of different ones. They have hundreds of videos now published on the internet, and they have every other week a video magazine where they show what's happening. And there is a lot more people are watching these videos than who are actually reading the newsletters. It's much more accessible, much easier to do. And also, if you look at the YouTube, you can find the website of the European Rural Network. They have their own video channel on YouTube. So the European Network for Rural Development, and they have a lot of videos there too. So this whole video thing is coming up and is spreading on every level. Basically, I only wanted to say this.
Sorry, just one more example, and that is I've now working with the Irish National Agricultural Research and Extension Service. I've got 2 PhD students starting in a fortnight's time, and over the next 4 years they're going to be looking at how to use this and other technologies within the process of agriculture extension. So it's very much going to be about sharing, and you know, there's many of these things coming, so it's really going to be all over the place very soon. Right, so we thought we'd go back and, I mean, you all know this. You all know all about evaluation, probably much more than we do. But we find it helpful just to talk about what evaluation actually does in order to talk about where video fits within that. And for us, there's sort of 3 functions that you can look for in evaluation. There's this accountability, and that's very important, particularly in the European context, about showing that public money, as it's being spent, is being spent on the things that it should be. And it gives legitimacy to the programs, and evaluation is very important. If you look at where the legislation came from that put it in place and how this practice has arisen, this is a clear influence. It's also about learning, so it's about increasing efficiency. In English we say bang for the buck. So this is, hopefully evaluation results in change in the future so that things work better and efficiency increases. And then finally, in terms of learning, you can look for a higher order of learning, which is saying, are we doing the right thing at all? And you'd expect a good evaluation not just to say, are we doing what we expected, but is that doing what it should? And sometimes evaluation's role is to challenge policy and practice and say, no, actually, although we are achieving what we set out to achieve, we should be setting out to do different things.
And if you talk about communication, then basically we have three different options for audience. One is politicians. What we all do, we have to communicate with them because they give the commission to us. But then we should communicate with practitioners. Not we, but the evaluation process should communicate with practitioners and with the general public. And when I talk about practitioners, I talk about those guys working in the leader groups, hopefully watching us on the internet at the moment, because they hardly ever, I don't know how it goes in Italy, but normally they hardly ever get any feedback. So evaluation would have the purpose of telling these guys on the ground who are doing the thing what they have achieved, and this almost never happens. And then to the general public also, I mean, we have very little to say normally, because the common monitoring and evaluation framework questions are not designed for talking about the program to the general public. So what is missing is this feedback loop is not there usually. And one thing which could overcome this is self-evaluation, which is theoretically, it can be done, it is in the guidelines, but no one ever actually supports it or tells how to do it. And it very rarely happens. Chris.
So one of the ways we'd like to sort of just open things up a bit is to talk about sort of a wider view of evaluation than just a linear model of evaluation done and the results are communicated. So my own experience about this, again, goes back to my PhD days. And if you look at the first diagram, this was about an international research project. And on the face of it, it was just a hub and wheel idea that people were doing research and was feeding back to the center, and that was informing policy. When you went and looked at what people were actually doing, it was much more like the second one, much more complicated. And I'm sure as working professionals, you all realize that things don't just work about information being generated here and delivered there. And within all this, two different worlds matter. There's the world of facts, there's definitely matter in evaluation, but there's also the world of people and relationships. And so facts never stand on their own, they translate as they move from place to place. And also they're carried by people. It's not just about the report, it's about the hand that holds the report and what that person is saying and how those feed back together. And so for me it's, does anyone here sail? Sail, like sail in boats. Do you have any sailors? Oh, we're too far from the sea. Okay. The main thing about a sailboat is it's not that the wind pushes the boat down the water. Boats can go across the wind, and that's because you get the energy from the wind pushes the sail, and the energy from the sea pushes the keel at a different angle. And it's those forces together that push the boat together. And you can almost sail into the wind because of this. And it's the same with these two worlds. Both the process of doing an evaluation matter, and the product that matters, and it's their interaction that's really interesting.
So how we can use participatory video in evaluation? I mean, PV enhances both the process and the product. It can make evaluation more participative, more credible, and more qualitative. I mean, we all have huge problems with answering the qualitative bits of the common monitoring and evaluation framework about governance and local communities and quality of life and all these sorts of things. If we use participatory methodology, of which PV is one, it can be more accessible to answer these questions. Also, if we work together with the people who we are evaluating, they will have some level of ownership of the process, and they will be more interested. So it will be easier to work with them, and later on it will be easier to communicate the results to them. On the other hand, participatory video produces material, which is video or video footage for films or video footage for presentations or all sorts of different things. It can happen, which are easy to distribute and easy to access. It has become so easy to distribute videos. You just put them on YouTube and make a link, and then anyone can watch them. Other benefits?
So an important thing in terms of evaluation is that it can achieve some of the results of rural development in the first place. It can actually give people the experience of agency, of doing things for themselves as part of taking part in the evaluation.
Then, as we told, it captures and illustrates qualitative results, which are difficult to capture otherwise.
So we weren't expecting this microphone thing. It's a very good way of demonstrating good practice in the voice of practitioners. So it's easy to write up good practice from an external perspective, but to have that person say, this is what I did, is a much more powerful way of projecting that message. An important thing in terms of evaluation and what we're saying about that being more complicated is that policy change and the way ideas change is just as much through narratives, through stories, as through facts. And video is a very good way of putting together a narrative.
And then it can be used to work with conflicts, to reduce conflicts. I mean, at the end of evaluation, during the evaluation and at the end of evaluation, we can have, I'm sure you have experience of this, we can have many conflicts about the results and what we have found. If you use participatory methodology with the stakeholders, then it can actually reduce the conflicts, because most conflicts come from not really understanding the other party and having fear from the beginning, so not talking to each other. PV is an excellent way of making people to talk to each other, because if they want to show and thinking together about what they have and what they have done, because if they want to show it to the outside world, they have to know what it is and they have to talk about it. Okay, then just a little bit about what happened in Hungary. I was involved in the midterm review of the rural development regulation in Hungary, mainly in the quality of life, maybe in the dodgy things, quality of life, networking, social capital, these sorts of things. So we had at the end, we had a huge document, almost 600 pages, and another 1,000 pages of annexes. So it was a huge work. Lots of people were involved. It was a big consortia of 3 research institutes and a big consultancy and all sorts of other parties. And we had many quantitative methods, like gathering data, and I mean, we have done all that, I'm sure. But for this, these soft things, we decided to go to a bit more qualitative and participatory methodology. And I mean, these are elements of what we have done. I mean, we had 4 local action group case studies, which were to answer these questions, like how they created the partnership and how the external and internal communication works, and how the governance, the local governance system works, and how the local agency achieves what they. I mean, plenty of questions we had to answer, and we had no data for. Then we did institutional focus groups, which meant Right. So we had institutional focus groups where we collected all the main institutions working in the rural development program, and throughout the evaluation we checked on workshops, we checked their opinion on how we were getting on. And then the very big invention was this participatory workshop with the central evaluation unit. This is a big stakeholder workshop with the management authority, the paying agency, all sorts of other government bodies, with local action groups, with independent experts and research institutes. And we had 2 big one-day workshops with them. One at the beginning when we presented the evaluation methodology we wanted to undertake, and one at the end when we presented the results. So obviously not all the 600 pages, just some elements of it. And then there was a workshop where they could complain about what we have been doing, and they could talk to each other about what we've shown them. And then we had a workshop together to have a better and deeper understanding of what has happened. And this had a lot of different benefits. Like they remembered, it wasn't just a simple presentation, what they forget for the next day. They were working with it for hours, so they remembered even in a month what has happened. We also had a lot of input, what we could, a lot of outcome of the workshop that we could put as input into the final study. So it was before the publication. I mean, we had lots of, they had ownership. I mean, it was a good thing to do. So we didn't use video in this because it wasn't allowed by the management authority. But any of these qualitative elements, we could use video because it's a workshop environment, and in a workshop environment or in a case study, video is a very good tool to be used. So how this methodology could be used in Italy or in the future or anywhere else?
So the sort of practical considerations you need to consider for this sort of thing, you know, our projects range from a 1-hour workshop for free
up to a 3-week process in India at a cost of £13,000. You know, with many stages in between. This is what I mean by it's tailored. You try to identify the sort of key costs are for facilitators and personnel, and also for the equipment. And again, there's sort of different levels. So if you're just working with people in a workshop environment, and that's the key focus, you can use very cheap equipment. You know, little cameras that cost €100 each, telephones, and these are almost ubiquitous now. If you're doing the sort of thing that we were with Solinsa, where you want sort of public-facing video, you probably want to come up to the next level of equipment. Around, so I'm speaking in pounds, it's around £500 to £1,000 for a set of kit, and that will enable you to work with 6 to 8 people. So if you're scaling that up to 20, you need more sets of equipment. And the key things are finding something that records good video, and also good audio. It's the absolute baseline of video, so you usually need microphones and the like. And a good editing setup, and we usually work with a specialist editor, so that the material is recorded by participants, and then they give instructions to someone who knows how to use the software, and this gives a more professional feel for outward-facing things. If you're working at sort of broadcast or with very high-end equipment, it's often cheaper just to rent a technician who'll bring his own camera to rent the equipment rather than to buy it, because you can spend as much money as you have. In terms of these sort of skills that are required for this sort of project, there's 3 main areas we find. One is sort of facilitation, working with people is very important. Filmmaking skills are obviously central too, and one of the traps to fall into is to pay a media company to take care of the filmmaking, and you wind up with a group of people who have no facilitation skills, and they wind up making a film about a group rather than a film with people. And then you also need strong organizational skills. This is a logistic problem, is getting a set of people together in the right place at the right time. And our practice has usually been to use people on the ground, people who are involved in the situation, and negotiate with them what needs to happen rather than try and run it ourselves. So I just thought I'd give some examples of the sorts of resources that are around for this sort of thing, and I'd be delighted if anyone wants to take this further. You know, please get in touch, and we'll explain. There are mailing lists. There's PVNet is for a national network in the UK, but it's now spreading into Europe. On Facebook, there's an international community film forum with international membership. There are websites. InsightShare is an organization that works internationally in this field, and they have many resources because they're interested in spreading the technique as well. I think they've just published a handbook on using participatory video and evaluation. We blog some of our projects. So Naturama Rocks is a blog of the project we did just over a year ago. There's the course at the Open University that I run, a 10-week course that anyone could study for increasing their film skills. And we also offer training, and we have so in terms of standard models, we have a 1-day, a 3-day, or a 5-day training. This year, we're working in the UK. I'm doing some training with the Wellcome Trust. I have a gig in Germany I'm negotiating, and we're also talking in Hungary about doing a sort of experience sharing project, and we'd be happy to talk to people about taking part in that.
We will make a version of this presentation with links to these things. So what will go on the website of INEA, it will have all the links, so you can just click on them and go and have a look. This is our last real slide, really. I mean, we were thinking about, as we told, we haven't done video in the official EU evaluation. I mean, we weren't allowed, but we have a lot of thoughts about how it could be done. This first one, the PV to express evaluation outcomes, is PR here means public relation. I mean, one possibility is to pay a film company to make a film about what you have done and put it on the internet or wherever. This can also be good, and it can be done till a certain extent on a participatory way. If you have, for example, a stakeholder workshop and you sit down together and you look at the thing, what you have done, the results, and you make a script together, then you can have a PR company who participates in the process a bit, so have a good understanding of what you want, and then they can make the film. This is the easiest solution. It's already participatory on a way, and till a certain extent. Another easy thing to do is to do something like the local action group case study we did with a PV approach, which means it can be a 2-3 days project, 4 days project, whatever, where you have PV experts and they go and do the case study, and you can still have your written report and you can still answer the questions you need to, but alongside you use PV to create the workshop environment and to create an enthusiasm, a local enthusiasm. If you tell people, please come around, we want to write a report with you, they probably won't come very enthusiastically, but if we have tried telling many times that people come and make a film together, and there is a lot of interest and enthusiasm going into it. The third thing is, we never did it, but we could do something similar with certain institutions, like the management authority, or the paying agency, or the controlling agency could do, I mean, we have to evaluate their work too. So doing a PV project with them, if they are willing, that would be an excellent thing. It would be an excellent organizational development for them, and an excellent way of reflecting on their work, and they could put out their point of view about the things on the internet. So not, because I mean, I'm not sure how it happens in Italy, but in Hungary, people are only swearing at the authorities because there are so many difficulties. So they would have a chance to say what they think. Then a third thing, if we could, I told you about this central evaluation unit we had in the Hungarian evaluation process. If a big stakeholder meeting could be dedicated to participatory video, that could be very useful, because then this workshop environment where they work together is much closer and much more strong. And then they can write a script, and then with any kind of video making, participatory video or a film company, we can actually make a film about the evaluation results where all the big stakeholders are present, and that would be a powerful thing. So basically that's all we wanted to say. We could talk for 2 more days, but probably it's not very useful. So it would be much more useful to talk about these things. So please, any questions, anything, maybe it's not yet, is it? Then, so if you want to work on an imaginary process in Italy, whatever you wish to ask or talk about, we are very open. Thank you very much.